What's going on, folks? Thank you for being here. There's an awful lot of people looking up to influencers, social media influencers. And the big ones. There's some big ones out there. Excuse my dogs, they're breathing heavy. But anyway, a lot of people look up to some of these influencers and also grifters. There's a lot of grifters out there. And you just got to be mindful that, look, we all want to be better at the end of the day, right? We all want to be the best version of ourselves. But I wouldn't tell you to do that. I would say be a better version of yourself. Each day, try to be better and better and better. It's ridiculous to think that you can be the best version of yourself, and it might be a lot of work to do that. And I wouldn't say don't try, but actually be a better version of yourself. Try to be better. That's it. And watch out for a lot of these grifters. They'll steal your money. All right? And a lot of things sound too good to be true. And if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Look, nothing in your life will improve unless you do the work. And often we look to some of these people. A lot of young people look to some of these big influencers for knowledge and wisdom, and to try to emulate these people. I wouldn't try to emulate any of them. I would try to be a better version of yourself. Really simply, that. That's the safer bet. Betting on yourself is the safer bet than trying to bet on somebody else. How can you bet on somebody else? Give them money and expect them to change your life without you lifting a finger, right? You have to do the work. Don't forget that. You have to do the work for yourself. They're not going to do the work for yourself. Now, I'm not saying that what they have to offer is all bad. I'm sure they have a lot of good attributes and a lot of good things to impart as far as knowledge and wisdom and the know-how that it takes in order to step up your life, level up, whatever you want to call it. But to be a better version of yourself, to be better, to improve yourself every day, whether it be, exercising, eating better, because a lot of what we eat actually affects our health. It does, as much as you don't want to realize that or understand that. And going to a licensed practitioner might steer you in the wrong direction, actually, because they benefit from you being ill, all right? So they're able to prescribe you medications that these pharmaceutical companies sponsor these hospitals and, pay for a lot of their bills and say, look, if you push this drug, then we'll give you so much. I think you get the picture. They fund hospitals based off of how much of the pharmaceuticals that they prescribe to their patients. I think that's counterintuitive to a well put together health plan. I think, don't you think? Whereby money is the controlling factor. And it should be the focus on health. But it's not. It's often driven by money, like a lot of other things are. Industrial complexes. Everything, forms an industrial complex over time. You get the military industrial complex. You have the prison industrial complex. Well, I think you get the picture. But we have to come to some sort of understanding in life that, we have to pave our own way. And looking to these influencers, they're not going to pave your way for you. You have to do that yourself. Oftentimes, a lot of people and a lot of those successful individuals out there that aren't grifters, they'll tell you, like everybody else tells you, you have to go out there and do it. You have to go do the thing yourself. anyway, even if you pay somebody for a course and a book, whatever the case might be, just reading it isn't going to do anything for you unless you go out there and you do it. You try to do it. You attempt to do it. All right? And a lot of people fail. Why do a lot of people fail? Well, they don't have their ducks in a row. And what you might want to really put into practice is freeing up yourself to do that. And what do I mean by that? Well, I have something that's called the PFPs, the PFPs of freedom, and what that is personal freedom, financial freedom, and professional freedom. Okay? So if you knock out those three things, with professional freedom being the last one, it will make it easier for you to go out there and to start your own business, at least on the side. I really encourage anybody and everybody to, whether or not you're in a 9-to-5, especially if you're in a 9-to-5, what other income are you generating in this economy here in the United States, especially? Even if you're in some of the Western countries, or any country for that matter, if you have a regular job, what are you doing on the side to augment, to supplement that income that you can't really depend on any one income these days, especially a 9-to-5. You can't really depend on that to really go the distance anymore. So, having your own side business is probably a better option and a smarter option at that, having a side business. So it gives you a bit of safety. It gives you a bit of cushion if you get let go from your primary job, from your 9-to-5. It's a smart thing to do these days. And I don't think a lot of people have a choice. Well, we all have a choice, but really, what are your goals in life? And do you want to really struggle having to get a job every time you get fired? And be on that hamster wheel, jump back on that hamster wheel? So this will give you an option, an escape route. It's something to think about. The PFPs, personal freedom being the first one. Okay, really. And it starts with the mind. It starts with your mind, freeing your mind up, right? Think about freeing your mind up. What would free your mind up? What is occupying your mind? And those things that are occupying your mind is really inhibiting you, stopping you, preventing you, holding you down from, freeing up that headspace, that mental space, in order for you to concentrate on things that you might want to be able to do. Like, even if it's taking pictures, maybe you can monetize that in some way and sell your pictures online. There's so many things that you can do now, and we have this online platform at our disposal. So really utilizing that and enabling us to progress in our own lives. And despite all this rhetoric and fear about losing our 9-to-5s, right? And it starts with the mind, mental freedom, freeing up that headspace and all the negativity, purging that out of your mind, so you have that headspace in order to concentrate on those things that you need to concentrate on in your personal life, and that goes along with personal freedom. What does your personal life look like? Who's holding you down? What's holding you down, right? What's holding you down in your personal life, in your relationships, your relationship with yourself too. So don't forget yourself. Having a relationship with yourself is just as important, if not even more important, than developing a relationship with somebody else. First, it begins with you. And that's the thing that a lot of people, it's not that they forgot, it's that they don't know. They do not know that having a relationship with yourself is paramount first. That's number one. So that goes with personal freedom. Now, what is financial freedom? Well, financial freedom looks like, okay, any of your bills. And I'm not talking about your utility bills. I'm not talking about your electric bill or your water bill. That's a necessity. That's going to be there regardless. But I'm talking about the car note, right? What kind of car note do you have? Is it a modest car? I mean, is it a regular car? You know, and you might want a better car in time, but that's fine. You can have a better car at time, over the course of time when you become more successful and you're in that enjoyment stage of money. And look, money is not everything, right? Money is not everything, because you have a lot of these rich individuals who absolutely are in hell because their personal life is absolutely in shambles and they don't have any personal freedom, right? So they fail in life because of that. And they generate all this wealth and they're not taking care of the one thing that's the most important, is themselves first, their family, their spouse, right? And developing that healthy personal life, your personal life, right? But financial freedom really is, what does your house note look like? What is your mortgage? How much is your mortgage? What kind of house do you live in? What kind of car do you drive? Is it too much? Okay, is it too much? Is it a want or is it a need, right? We often spend money on things that we want, but we don't address our needs first. And that's the thing about it. That's the crux of the issue, is not addressing your needs. You got to address your needs, man. I mean, what kind of car do you drive? Is it a Mercedes S-Class? S-Class Mercedes? Are you driving a Maserati? What are you driving? A BMW 5 Series? What? Do you need all that? I don't. I've had many cars. I've got a supercar, an old vintage supercar. Do I need it? No. I don't need it, but then again, I don't need to sell it. I'm not at that. I'm of old money. I generated my money in life, and I've earned six figures. I'm a six-figure salary earner. So, I mean, I have the leeway, but I'm at the point now that even that is an if. I don't need it, so maybe I might get rid of it in time. It's, to me now, it's an investment. It's an investment. That's all it is. It's not like I'm going to go out and drive it all the time. I need to fix it. It needs a little bit of work, but I can do that because I'm a mechanic. But if I were to do it over again, I would have still bought it. Yeah, because it's a good investment long term. Granted, I don't drive it and rack up miles on it. And that it in itself is kind of a deterrent for me to keep it, because I don't want to put any more miles on it, because if I put miles on it, now I decrease the value of it. So think about your life, and many people don't have that. Many people just have that one car. But do you need all that? Do you need that Scat Pack? Do you need that that, what is it, Dodge Hellcat? Do you need that? Is that necessary? What does your other stuff look like? What does your house look like? Do you live in an apartment? And you want to buy a new $80,000 car? Why? Why don't you focus that money on buying a piece of property? That's what I mean about financial freedom. You have to make prudent decisions, and all that stuff can be enjoyed in time. But at the end of the day, guys, it's all just stuff, and it doesn't mean anything. Not even a piece of property. If buying a house at this point is a liability. It can be very much a liability if you don't look at how much taxes you're going to spend annually. The insurance premiums in the area that house is in, is that high? Were there storms, in the recent years, and how bad were those storms? What does the insurance premium look like? And also the interest rate on the mortgage itself. Does that sound feasible, right? Are you able to afford all that? What I mean by that is you can buy yourself a good used car, all right, and even go into places like CarMax and things, and trying to negotiate a good deal with the car. I think that's a prudent thing. And a lot of people, maybe they need a new car. Maybe you just want something with a good warranty. That's fine. You can get those. Is there anything wrong with a Hyundai? Is there anything wrong with a Honda? Is there anything wrong with a Nissan Maxima? I know a lot of people make fun of Nissan Maximas, but those are generally good cars. There's nothing funny about that. I think that's a very prudent purchase. In this day and age, it gets you from point A to point B. What's wrong with that? As long as it doesn't cost you that much every month in that car note. I would not try to exceed, I think, in this day and age, now with the prices being as they are, $800. That's a stretch even. That's a stretch. I would much prefer having a car payment around maybe the high threes. Just that. Think about that. And maybe you have a house. But you feel stuck in life. This is my dog. Hey, Brighton. Maybe you feel stuck in life. Okay, that's fine too. If you feel stuck in life, there's nothing wrong with that. What are you going to do? And a lot of people, they turn that house into some sort of investment. Think about renting. Think about short-term rentals. I don't know. Think about it. Or sell the property, sell the house. Fix it up a little bit. Maybe you might want to sell it and get out from under it. Kind of free yourself up and get yourself unstuck. So that would be personal freedom. Personal, financial, and professional. That would be the the PFPs of freedom. What I call the PFPs of freedom. So you might want to think about that. And then once you are able to, experience the PFPs of freedom, all right, it will give you some maneuverability in life. It'll enable you to, get yourself unstuck and concentrating on those things that you really want to concentrate on. Turning that passion into monetization, which people do. Find your passion. I know a lot of people actually make fun of that, and they say, "Oh, don't find your passion. Find what works." I get you. You can find what works, and then you can readdress some of the things that you're passionate about and try to monetize those. So what you need to do is you need to free up time and enable you to do that and really concentrate on those things. And really what that does is it brings meaning in your life. All right? It gives you purpose to wake up in the morning and to work on those passion projects. I think that's really the spice of life, being able to do that. So think about that. The PFPs of freedom: personal, financial, and professional. Okay? So when you're able to, free yourself up financially, when you address your financial freedom, now it goes into your automatically, really, professional freedom. So you're able to free up a lot of your money, a lot of your personal overhead, stack cash, and some people will say don't stack cash. All right, no, stack cash. Stack cash, but stack cash wisely. Try to get it and put it into a high yield or higher yield savings account, right? Something that will yield you, 4% APY. It's not too good these days, but it is what it is. At least you're putting into something that's going to yield you more interest than usual, right? And once you're able to get up enough cash, maybe you can save up 6 months. Maybe you can save up a year or 2 years' salary. Well, that's going to give you some professional freedom. Because if you go into work and you don't like your boss, or you like your boss, but every time you like your boss ends up leaving because he's a good boss or she's a good boss, So she has, or he has, options to make more money somewhere else, you know, and that's just the way life is. So professional freedom, you're able to say, okay, I'm going to hand in my letter of resignation, or perhaps it is that your boss wants you to do something that's, you know, against your moral fabric. Then you can absolutely say, no, I'm not going to do that. And then they hang that job over your head. You can say, no, you can't hang this job over my head and try to get me to do something that I don't believe in. I'm not going to do that. So here's my letter of resignation. I quit today. All right now. I don't know how many people wish they had that opportunity because of these toxic bosses trying to get them to do what they want them to do through fear. And it's disgusting, really. And the reason why they do that is because they don't know how to lead otherwise. They don't know how to lead the correct way. They're not leaders, okay? So, you know, that's my take on the whole thing. I hope this video gave you a bit of value. And if it did give you value, go ahead and thumbs up this video and subscribe to my channel. We're going to talk about this stuff, and I'm going to keep on talking about it until someone listens. If I can get one person, then I did my job. I don't care. It's not about how many subscribers I have. It's not about, you know, how many views I have. It's about the comments, about the interaction. I'm trying to grow this channel in a community of like minds, right? Of leaders, of personal leaders, right? I don't believe in leaders. We don't really need leaders, but being as it is, lead yourself. Be a leader for yourself. At least do that, all right? So, thank you very much. If you're still here, like I said, subscribe and thumbs up this video. Thank you. Have a good night, day, morning, afternoon.